Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, I'll have earned the privilege of your subscription. And of course, to everybody who's watching, if you get anything out of this video or find that you enjoy it, I would implore you, I would beg of you to click or tap that thumbs up button down below. It's easy to do, it doesn't cost you anything, and it does a lot to help support my channel. Okay, so in today's video, originally what I was planning to do was I was going to kind of walk you through the strategy I plan to employ as I prepare the CNC files for building this 6-string multi-scale guitar. And specifically, we're going to look at the cam side of the whole process, which is selecting, establishing the tool paths, and then writing the G code that I'll use when I carve the parts on my CNC machine. However, as I was preparing some of those files earlier, I decided I'm going to make a bit of a change. Originally with this guitar, I was going to make the neck so that it would have an angled headstock with an inline tuner arrangement. That poses a few problems, and they're not problems that really for me because I've done this before. However, I think for a lot of folks who've never built guitars before or have limited experience, they would find this approach to be perhaps too complex. And since I'm going to offer these plans on my eGuitar Plans website and in my YouTube merch store, I felt I should probably try to simplify the construction of this guitar rather than make it an advanced, really complicated design. Now, the problem with doing an angled headstock with inline tuners is the length of the headstock becomes so long that in order to carve a neck like that from a single piece of wood without doing any sort of laminations or scarf joints would require sourcing a really thick piece of wood. Typically, when I make a neck from one piece, I will source what's known as 8-quarter lumber. That means 8/4 of an inch. When you add that up, it's 2 inches. In reality, an 8-quarter piece is about 1 7/8 inches thick because of planing and sanding and all the prep that goes into it. It's not really precise, but in lumberyard parlance, it's called 8/4. Well, with this particular design, with the angled headstock and the inline tuners, I was going to need to source a blank that was at least 10/4 thick. The problem is my lumberyard doesn't sell 10/4 lumber. They sell 8/4, then it jumps to 12/4. And that jump gets really expensive. Plus, you're wasting a lot of wood to carve out just the neck. And you also must use an extremely long bit to carve that shape through that thick piece of wood. And if you've ever done CNC work before, you'll know that when you start getting into these really long bits, you can have deflection, and that can cause problems with the carving. So you have to accommodate that in your G code or your tool path selection and implementation and the G code that results from that. So the only way to avoid that deflection is to use a spindle that can accommodate a 1/2-inch diameter cutting bit or larger. And with those type of CNC machines start getting really expensive. Most of your consumer grade CNC machines can't accommodate bits that large. So I decided that to solve the issue, I would make a neck that would have a 3x3 tuner arrangement. In other words, 3 tuners on the bass side, 3 tuners on the treble side. That allows me to shorten the length of the headstock and thereby use a much thinner, an 8/4 piece of wood, which I can easily source. Now, the other problem with sourcing, thick pieces of wood is, when you're looking at like 5/4 or 4/4, there's usually tons of boards to source, to look through. And you can choose wood that is more appropriate for making a guitar neck. I don't just pick any board that thick and use it to make a guitar neck. I'm very particular about the grain orientation and the presence of knots and things like that. It has to be a certain orientation and a certain level of quality. And so that's something probably for a future video, and I may talk about that down the road and do a special video just on selecting wood for a guitar neck, because it's really important. But when you start looking at the 8/4 and then 10 and 12/4 wood, the selection is diminished, and you don't have that opportunity to look through a lot of different boards. You basically have to go with what's available, and it's not always ideal for making a guitar neck. With 8/4, it's a little bit better. There's usually, I find, quite a bit more to choose from, but when you start getting any thicker than that, it gets to be a problem. Now, some of you are probably wondering, well, why not just use a scarf joint and use a thinner board? I've actually done that. I've done that actually. I did it for years and years and years. Well, I shouldn't say years and years and years. I did it for several years, both building guitars using traditional hand building techniques as well as CNC. And this guitar is an example of a scarf joint guitar neck that I made on my CNC machine. And I did many of these things. However, to do it, you have to have a couple of fixtures. One for carving the backside, and then one for carving the truss rod on the other side. And these fixtures will allow you to place the neck flat on the CNC machine to carve the back, mostly the shaft area. But then when you go to do the headstock, because it's at an angle, you have to have a fixture that allows you to clamp it flat so that the headstock is flat. So it gets complicated, as you can well imagine. And I just think that a lot of folks who are just looking for a simple, multi-week project, they're going to be kind of put off by the idea of having to make all these fixtures. And plus, when it comes, if you're going to make it using the traditional methods by hand, the effort to make a scarf joint is much more, there are more steps involved, and it's a lot more complicated than just carving it out of a single slab of wood. So I've decided I'm going to redo this neck and build new 3D models so that I can start to establish my tool paths and write the G-code, which I plan to talk about in a future episode. So it's been a bit of a delay. So now I'm going to have to focus on creating the 3D model for that. And then, and rather than make you sit through watching what I've already demonstrated in a previous video, I'm just going to do it in sped up fashion so that you can see sort of some of the work that goes into it. that's basically where things stand right now. So I apologize for not being ready to do the cam portion of the build yet. I want to get everything done and ready to go so that I can kind of walk you through all the steps that are, well, maybe not all the steps, but most of the steps, give you a basic general overview of how this process works. As always, take care, stay safe, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, please. And I hope to see you in the next episode of my 6-string multi-scale guitar build.